The silence after the chase, the city lights used to make Ethan feel alive. Each Friday night, he would wear his best shirt and step into the noise. Bars, music, laughter, they all used to mean something. But now, as he walks through the same streets, everything feels strangely quiet. He passes couples laughing, holding hands, and he feels no envy. Instead, he feels peace, a peace he never found while chasing love. He remembers when dating felt like a game he had to win. The perfect text, the perfect reply, the perfect image. He learned to perform, not to connect. Every date was a small interview, a performance for approval, and each rejection felt like proof that he was never enough. So he tried harder, smiled wider, and lost himself even more. One night, sitting in his car after another awkward dinner, he asked himself a question. What am I really searching for? The answer was silence. He wanted silence from expectations, pressure, and judgment. He wanted peace from pretending. So he stopped dating. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He wanted to meet himself before meeting anyone else. In the first few weeks, it was lonely. His phone stayed quiet. His friends joked that he was becoming invisible. But deep down, he knew something was healing. He started reading again, cooking for himself, walking at dawn. The world began to look softer. He realized he had been living for validation, not connection. And that truth hurt more than loneliness ever could. One morning, as he stood by his window watching the sunrise, he felt something new. Calm. A calm that did not depend on anyone's message or attention. He realized that love built on pressure was not love at all. It was a transaction. And for the first time, he wanted something deeper, something silent. The city still buzzed with noise, but Ethan no longer chased it. He had found a quiet space inside himself, and in that silence he felt a strange kind of happiness, the kind that comes not from being chosen, but from choosing peace. What he did not know yet was that silence had its own lessons. It would show him the truth about modern love and what people call connection. It would also bring him face to face with the one thing he had been running from all along, himself. The illusion of connection days turned into weeks, and Ethan's quiet routine became a habit. No more swiping, no more waiting for replies, no more anxious checking. He felt lighter, but a small part of him still wondered. Was he giving up too soon? Was he becoming one of those men who simply stopped trying? One evening, while sipping coffee in a small bookstore, he overheard two women talking. They spoke about dating, heartbreak, and how men had changed. They don't even try anymore, one said. They're cold, detached, emotionless, said the other. Ethan listened silently, realizing how deep the misunderstanding had become. It was not that men stopped caring. Many had simply stopped performing. He remembered how connection had become a transaction. Likes, comments, attention, all traded for validation. People didn't date to understand, they dated to be seen. And in that endless search for attention, everyone felt unseen. Ethan realized he was tired, not of women, but of pretending to be interesting. He wanted to be real, even if that meant being alone. That night, he opened his old chats. Endless messages that once felt exciting now looked empty. Small talk, half-hearted compliments, late-night confessions, all felt like noise. He realized most conversations were mirrors, not windows. Everyone spoke to be heard, not to understand. The more he read, the more he saw the illusion. People were connecting, but never touching each other's truth. He thought about the women he had met. Some were kind, some were clever, some were broken just like him. But behind every smile, there was exhaustion. They too were chasing something that kept running away. Love had turned into a marketplace, and everyone was trying to sell peace. But peace was never for sale. It had to be grown inside. A few days later, Ethan met his friend Liam for dinner. Liam had just ended another relationship. He laughed and said, "Bro, dating feels like a job now." Ethan nodded. "Maybe we stopped dating because we finally understood what love isn't," he said. Liam smiled, but his eyes were tired. "So what is love then?" he asked. Ethan looked out the window and whispered, "It's what's left when the noise ends." As they sat there, two men in quiet reflection, the world outside kept spinning. People kept matching, messaging, and moving on. But inside that small moment, there was something rare. Honesty. Not about women, not about blame, but about the loss of depth. Ethan felt it deeply. Men weren't quitting love, they were quitting the performance. And in doing so, they were finding a strange kind of peace that the modern world could not understand. What he didn't know yet was that peace would soon be tested. Because healing is never the end. It's only the beginning of seeing love with clearer eyes. When peace meets temptation, Ethan's life had become quiet, almost too quiet. He spent his mornings walking by the lake, his evenings reading in soft light. He had built a small world where nothing disturbed him. No noise, no games, no emotional chaos. But peace can be fragile when the heart still remembers how to hope. One Saturday afternoon, while attending a photography class, he met her. Her name was Claire. She had warm eyes and spoke like someone who had lived many lives. They exchanged small smiles, then stories, then laughter. And before he realized, his calm began to tremble. He felt the familiar rush, the excitement, the spark, the pull. The same feelings he thought he had outgrown. For days, they talked about art, fear, and solitude. She understood silence in a way most people avoided. She said, "I don't chase love anymore. I let it find me." Those words stayed in his mind like music. He wondered if this was what real connection felt like, gentle and unforced. But the human heart has a strange memory. It remembers pain, even in peace. As the days passed, Ethan noticed his old patterns waking up, checking his phone too often, replaying conversations, overthinking every pause. His calm began to blur with anxiety. He realized that even silence could not erase his old fears. He still wanted to be chosen. He still wanted to be seen. And that truth shook him more than loneliness ever did. One evening, Claire didn't reply to his message. Hours passed and the silence grew louder. His mind began its old dance, overthinking, assuming, doubting. He felt the storm he had escaped slowly return, but this time he paused. He sat down, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, "Peace is not found in people. It's kept inside." The next day, Claire texted, "Sorry, I was with my mom." And Ethan smiled. Not because she replied, but because he stayed calm. For the first time, he didn't let his mind define his worth by someone's attention. He realized growth is not about avoiding love. It's about not losing yourself when love arrives. Claire noticed his calmness and asked, "Why are you so quiet sometimes?" Ethan smiled and said, "Because I used to mistake chaos for love." She looked at him softly, understanding without words. In that silence, something deeper grew. Not romance, but respect. Ethan learned that solitude had not killed his ability to love. It had only taught him how to love without begging for it. He was not avoiding connection anymore, he was redefining it. And in that balance between peace and desire, he discovered maturity, but peace always has a shadow. Soon, something would test the calm he had built, because real growth is not proven in silence. It's proven in storms. The storm that tests peace weeks passed, and Ethan and Claire grew closer. Their connection felt gentle, grounded, almost healing. But peace in relationships is fragile when old wounds remain unhealed. One evening, while watching the rain through the cafe window, Claire shared something that changed everything. She said quietly, "I used to love someone who never chose me." Ethan felt her words like cold rain against warm glass. He saw the pain behind her calm eyes. She continued, "I thought if I became perfect, they would stay. But I just became exhausted." Ethan nodded because he understood that story too well. He had lived it in his own way. Two people both recovering from being unseen, trying to build something gentle, yet fragile. Over the next few days, Claire became distant. Her replies slowed, her laughter faded. Ethan's mind began to spiral again. He felt the storm rising inside him, whispering old lies. "You are not enough. You will lose her too." But this time, something inside him resisted. He remembered his promise to himself, to stay calm even when peace trembled. One night, he wrote her a message he never sent. It said, "I understand if you need space. Just know I am not here to control or convince. I am here to understand." He deleted it and closed his phone. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Days later, Claire called. Her voice cracked as she said, "I pushed you away because I was scared. You feel safe, but I don't know how to trust that anymore." Ethan listened without interruption. He realized peace isn't about avoiding pain, it's about staying open even when pain returns. So he replied softly, "I don't need you to be sure. I just need you to be honest." For a moment, both said nothing. The silence felt heavy but not empty. It was the kind that heals instead of hurts. They met a few days later at the same cafe. No makeup, no masks, no performance. Just two people with tired hearts and honest eyes. They talked for hours, not about romance, but about fear. Claire said, "It's strange how love feels easier when you stop chasing it." Ethan smiled and said, "Because peace makes love less about need and more about choice." That night, as he walked home, Ethan realized something profound. The reason many men stopped dating was not rejection. It was exhaustion. Emotional, mental, spiritual. They were tired of fighting battles disguised as love. They were learning to protect their peace, not their pride. And in that quiet strength, there was growth. Yet deep inside, Ethan knew his journey wasn't over. The real challenge wasn't finding peace. It was keeping it when love stayed. Because peace is easy in solitude, but hard in connection. And soon, he would learn how easily love can slip back into chaos if awareness fades. The quiet collapse of connection, Ethan had never felt this balanced before. He was calm, patient, and aware of his emotions. But peace is never permanent when love enters the picture. It always brings a quiet test to see what you've truly learned. As weeks turned into months, Claire became a part of his daily rhythm. Morning calls, shared playlists, late-night talks. Everything felt gentle until small things started to shift. Her tone changed, her words grew shorter, her warmth faded. Ethan noticed but didn't react. He told himself, "Stay calm, stay kind." Yet his chest felt heavy, the old anxiety returning slowly like fog. "One night," she said, "I just need time to think." He nodded, pretending to understand. But inside, his thoughts raced. Had he done something wrong? The silence after that message was different. Not peaceful, but hollow. And that was when Ethan realized how fragile emotional balance could be. Days passed without a call. His mind began replaying every moment, every text, every pause. But then something new happened. Instead of chasing, he observed, he saw how quickly peace could vanish when validation was at risk. He saw how his brain confused attention with safety. And for the first time, he didn't react. He reflected. He remembered something he once read. The brain sees rejection as danger because it feels like loss of control. It wasn't love that hurt. It was uncertainty. Humans crave predictability even if it comes from pain. He realized he had been addicted not to people, but to the patterns they brought. And that was why so many men were stepping away from dating. Not because they hated women, but because they were tired of emotional survival. Ethan began journaling every night. He wrote about silence, fear, peace, and the strange dance between all three. He saw that emotional independence doesn't mean avoiding love. It means staying centered when love shakes the ground beneath you. He wrote, "Peace is not the absence of pain. It's the awareness that pain passes." One morning, Claire texted again. She said, "I'm sorry." I panicked. "You were too calm and it scared me." Ethan smiled faintly. He realized his peace had made her feel unsafe. Not because it was wrong, but because it was rare. Most people are used to chaos disguised as connection, so when they meet calmness, they confuse it with distance. They met again, but something inside Ethan had changed. He no longer needed her to fill his silence. He could love without losing balance. And for the first time, he understood why men were happier alone. It wasn't loneliness. It was freedom from pretending. He looked at Claire and said, "I want love, but not at the cost of peace." She nodded softly, understanding. The truth was simple. Love built on anxiety dies quietly. But love rooted in peace, even if it ends, leaves you whole. That night, as he walked home under a quiet sky, he whispered to himself, "Maybe happiness isn't found in being loved. Maybe it's found in loving calmly, without fear. And that was when he understood. Men aren't quitting love. They're quitting the chaos that destroys it. The peace that stays. Months passed quietly after Claire left for a new city. There were no dramatic endings, no angry words, no closure messages. Just a soft silence between two people who once tried to meet halfway. Ethan thought it would hurt more, but it didn't. It only felt still, like a long exhale after years of holding his breath. He kept his routines the same. Morning coffee, evening walks, small conversations with strangers. His life wasn't exciting, but it was real. He began to notice small things again. The sound of birds, the warmth of sunlight, the taste of slow mornings. Peace had stopped being an idea and had become a practice. One evening, he saw a group of young men at a cafe talking about dating. One said, "There's no point anymore. Girls only want attention." Another replied, "Men are cold now. They don't care about emotions." Ethan smiled faintly. He understood both sides, but he also knew both were missing something. It wasn't about blame. It was about exhaustion. Two genders tired of misunderstanding each other. Everyone was shouting louder, yet listening less. He wished he could tell them that the problem wasn't dating itself. It was the way people dated, as if love was proof of worth. He had learned that when you chase love to fill emptiness, it becomes a mirror of your pain. But when you find love after peace, it becomes a reflection of your wholeness. One day, while sitting by the lake, an old man joined him on the bench. They sat in silence for a while before the old man said, "You look like someone who finally stopped running." Ethan smiled. "Maybe I just got tired." The old man chuckled and said, "No, son, you didn't get tired. You got wise." Those words stayed with him long after the man left. He realized wisdom isn't about knowing more. It's about needing less. Less validation, less performance, less noise. It's about being okay with the quiet truth of who you are. Weeks later, he opened his old journal and wrote the final entry. Men aren't avoiding love. They are learning that peace is a form of love too. The kind that doesn't demand, doesn't chase, doesn't perform. The kind that simply exists. He closed the book and looked at his reflection in the window. The man staring back wasn't lonely. He was whole. He wasn't escaping love, he was returning to himself, and in that moment he understood something deep. The reason peace feels so rare is because most people have never met it. They confuse quiet with emptiness, solitude with loss, calmness with indifference. But peace isn't the absence of feeling. It's the mastery of it. As the sun set behind the water, Ethan smiled softly. He finally felt free. Not from love, but from the need to be loved. He whispered one last line to himself. When peace becomes your home, love becomes your guest. And with that, his story ended. Not with heartbreak or reunion, but with balance, truth, and silence that finally felt safe.